Join the Raiders Report family. There's a reason why we have over 209,000 diehard Raiders fans that watch this show every single day. I know I can be loud, believe me, but I also know that we can be loud together. And if you want Pete Carroll getting fired smoke, hit that subscribe button because I'm bringing the fire. Coming up today here on the Raiders Report, ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter adds a little bit of fuel to the Pete Carroll getting fired rumors. And anytime that I see something that Schefter has to say in regards to Pete Carroll, hasta la vista, baby, you know damn right that I'm going to talk about it here on today's program. Now, if you did not see what Schefter had to say, he was on the Pat McAfee show on Monday and was asked about the job security of Raiders head coach Pete Carroll. And obviously the Raiders are 2-9, and they look more lost than they've ever been before. The team that they put on the field up against the Cleveland Browns, I'll say it right now, I think it's the worst Raiders team that has ever been assembled in the history of the Oakland, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas Raiders. That's how bad it was. And what's funny is we've seen a lot of smoke from a lot of different insiders in regards to Pete Carroll. Here's what Adam Schefter had to say on Carroll's job security. Pete Carroll never fired an assistant coach in season in his entire time in Seattle. Now, they have fired two different coordinators here in about 2+ weeks. It was actually 17 days. They fired their special teams coach, and now they fired Chip Kelly, which is, again, what Schefter said on Monday. I think it's clear nobody seemed to be safe right now out there on the coaching staff. I think everything is up in the air. I think the season has not gone in the way a lot of people would have hoped. It's been disappointing in a lot of different ways. You lose to the Browns at home like that and give up 10 sacks, everything is going to be called into question. Now, I want to be very, very clear. I am going to give Pete Carroll an opportunity this week. And my opportunity to Pete Carroll this week is this. You can either suspend Geno Smith or you can bench Geno Smith. Because if you're not going to fire your Nepo kid and you're only going to point the finger at everybody else instead of really the most important people that it needs to be pointed at, because if Geno's going to point his finger at people, I don't see why you can't point a different one at him. So if you want Pete Carroll to be fired after this season, I want you to hit that like button. And this is a topic that I've already discussed. At this point, I got to be a hopeful Raiders fan. If the 2-9 Raiders, the Pete Carroll Raiders, are going to put on display what they've been putting on display, I am going to sit up here and I'm going to hope that the Raiders find a Pete Carroll replacement in the year 2026. Now, maybe you want Clint Kubiak. I'm sure a bunch of y'all want John Gruden. I did a video. Here's the thumbnail. It's going to be for you down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. If you want to see some of the top coordinators on the offensive side of the football, on the defensive side of the football, and then I'll also talk about some coaches that I want no part of, even though I hear their names all the time. So I got a little expression here, and you guys are probably going to laugh at me. And let's be honest, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. And earlier this offseason, earlier in the season, I was told by, I'll keep saying it, the greatest source of all, there was a 0% chance that Pete Carroll was going to be fired a few months ago. And yet, the more and more time that the Pete Carroll Raiders show how awful they are on the field and how awful they are off the field, multiple NFL insiders from Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, Albert Breer, Jeremy Fowler, I'm probably even letting off a few guys. People that are very, very well-credited sources. And again, I don't give a shit if people believe me or not. I know that I've been able to prove myself this year. But I talked to a source about this article. Again, I'm recording this on Tuesday. I talked to a source about this article on Monday, and they told me anything is possible this season. And I do tend to agree with that statement. I would also say the exact same damn thing because I think anything is possible this season. But the fact that so many guys that have sources better than anybody out there in the world are putting their name, their reputation on the line, saying that there is a chance that Pete Carroll can get fired, it's why I'll continue to say I think Pete Carroll's going to be one and done. So coming up next here on the show, I'm going to tell you why Pete Carroll, I think, is going to be fired after this season. And what's crazy is I think there's actually certain ways that he could not get fired. but Pete's going to be too stubborn. It's a quality that I hate that he's taken on the older and older he gets, but that's going to be the bed that Pete Carroll lays in. And unfortunately, I think he's too naive to realize it. I'm going to tell you why I believe Pete's going to be fired here in just a moment, but today's show is sponsored by PrizePicks, and I love this time of the year. I can't wait on Thanksgiving Day to be able to sit down with my family, to be able to sit down with my friends, to be able to sit down with my wife and my dog Chuck and watch a lot of good football games. And you know what? I got PrizePicks lineups left and right on that Thursday, and I'm actually going to give you guys a video a little bit later on in the week with picks in every single one of my Thanksgiving Day games. But I'm serious when I say it. The game that I'm going to be watching on the Thanksgiving, my wife's family, they're Cowboys fans. And I'm hoping for a high-scoring game, but that's only because I got other players in fantasy. And if I'm going to watch the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, and I know I got to watch the Chiefs as well, I'm at least going to root for a fun and entertaining game. And it's something that I love about PrizePicks. Now, I want you to download the PrizePicks app today. I want you to use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. It's good to be right. Also, I want to talk about real quick here a new feature on PrizePicks. PrizePicks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game ever finishes. Something that I wish I would have done this past week against the Browns because I only won $4. I could have won 17. And you know what? That sounded like an extra cup of coffee this morning, which I definitely could have used. So I love PrizePicks. I think a lot of y'all will enjoy PrizePicks. And in a season that feels almost hopeless, at least give yourself a little bit of hope, something to root for on Raiders game day. So here's why I believe Pete Carroll is going to be fired after this season. The first one, and I kind of already talked about this, I think it was last week on the program. The first reason is the Geno Smith loyalty. Geno Smith's not playing well on the field. He's flipping off fans off the field. You're putting out statements, apologies, but yet you're not putting it out there public knowledge, right? Like, the problem right now with Pete Carroll is the blind loyalty to Geno, because how do you put out a statement on Tom McMahon? How do you put out a statement on Chip Kelly? How do you put out a statement on Christian Wilkins? How do you put out a statement on everybody that has done something wrong in this organization? And yet you don't put out a statement on your quarterback flipping off somebody. You did it behind closed doors because of your blind loyalty to him. And that blind loyalty, unfortunately, for Pete is going to cost him his job, because Raider fans hate Geno Smith more than I think any quarterback that has ever put on the Raiders uniform. And if he doesn't punish the baby, then the baby's going to keep throwing temper tantrums. He's probably also going to keep throwing picks as well. Let's go to the next reason why they're going to be one and done. I just realized this is a picture of Chip Kelly. They moved on from Chip. They moved on from Tom McMahon. But the staff loyalty that I want to discuss here is Brennan Carroll. And, you know, when Pete spoke to the media on Monday and was asked some, let's be honest with ourselves, some BS questions overall, again, he's pointing the finger there, he's pointing the finger there. How do you not point the finger at your son, the offensive line coach, the run game coordinator? You sat up there the other day and you said you wanted to be able to run the football more. It's hard to run the football more when your offensive line can't block. And I'm actually going to defend Geno here a little bit. Geno Smith was not the biggest issue in that game against Cleveland. I want to be honest with y'all, though. He did hang on the football too long. He did make some bad throws. But the fact that the Browns were able to sack him 10 times, and 9 out of those 10 they didn't even blitz anybody, is a pretty eye-popping stat. But the blind loyalty to Geno, the blind loyalty to your kid, and the blind loyalty to a lot of those players or a lot of those coaches on that staff that don't deserve it is going to get him fired. The next reason here, it's been well reported, there is disconnect in that front office. The front office wants the Raiders to plan for the future because the front office is actually filled with some intelligent people, and they know that the future is not now. They got to be able to build for it. But when you do things like Caleb Rogers walking out there on the field, you pull him off the field for Will Putnam and Alex Kappa. It's idiotic, right? When you don't play JPJ at a position that there's people in that front office want JPJ to play center. I want to be very clear on that. But front office, Pete Carroll, big disconnect. Tom Brady, based on sources that I talked to, Mark Davis, based on sources that I talked to, have way more confidence in the front office and way more loyalty to John Spytek than they do Pete Carroll. Let's look at the rest of the season. Let's talk about it. You're 2-9. Does anybody here think that they're going to beat the Chargers? No. Broncos? No. Eagles? Come on, man. Eagles are going to roundhouse us. Giants, maybe. But you know what? The Giants are way better than the Raiders, and there I get it, 2-10. But if you watch the Giants and you watch the Raiders, completely two different teams. And then you got Kansas City Week 18. A game that, let's be real, is going to be a game that they need to win for a chance to make the playoffs. I'm always going to be Team FKC. But at this point, I don't know how you think the Raiders are going to win another game for the rest of the season. What do you say? Well, I skipped the Texans? Oh, that's on me. Texans Week 16, that's on me. You're not going to win a single game the rest of the year. I mean, honestly, the Texans' defensive line might be the toughest matchup that our offensive line ends up going up against. It's going to be really, really rough. And then the final reason, he's 74. Why are we going to try to build a team with a 74-year-old head coach? Again, the plan from the jump was a dumb plan. It's a bad plan. And when you see how bad that plan's been executed this year, on top of the fact that he's 74, what, you're going to hope that 74-year-old Pete Carroll can get the ball rolling, and then he's just going to have to leave, and you're going to have to find a brand new head coach? It doesn't make any sense. Mark, it was a bad hire. It's time to fix it. But again, until you figure out the right people to hire, you got to start listening to the right people. This is your bed. You got to lay in it, but luckily you got a lot of money to lay in. So, how can Pete Carroll save his job? I want to know from you. Let me know down in the comments section. I'm going to tell you how I believe Pete can save his job. It's not going to be easy. And Chip Kelly said something the other day. It's probably the smartest thing Chip Kelly has said when he was, I guess, this entire offseason. He was as simple as like, if you don't win, it's how the NFL is. You're going to get moved on from. And I'll say there's three ways. You could suspend Geno Smith for one game. Prove to me, prove to Raider Nation, prove to our fan base that you care more about the Raiders than you do Geno Smith. I don't think you have the stones to do it. If you're not going to suspend him, why don't you just bench him one game? Bench him one game, slap on the wrist. Let's see what Aiden O'Connell will do. Because fans want to see AOC. We don't want to see Geno Smith anymore. And if Geno goes out there and he plays bad with Greg Olsen, you can't put it on Chip Kelly anymore. To me, we got to weigh out all of our options. The final way is this. You play your rookies, you show growth, and you win 5 out of your last 6 games. I don't know what's more. I don't really know what's really more possible. I would say starting Aiden O'Connell's more possible. I would say maybe suspending Geno Smith's more possible. But winning 5 out of 6 games, I think I got a better chance ending this show, hopping on Loch Ness, and then going down to meet Bigfoot at a big old monster truck rally instead of seeing any of these things happen. Why? Because Pete Carroll's stubborn, and that's what the Pete Carrolls are. The Pete Carroll Raiders are a stubborn organization, and that's why, Pete, you're going to be one and done.